Yesterday, with one single sentence, Pat Quinn's budget director put a shock throughout not just the state but the nation by proposing a 67% tax increase on Illinois families and businesses. This is the same budget director who just authorized himself, under Governor Quinn's order, a $24,000 20% pay raise. It seems that Governor Quinn's policies are to raise the taxes on the backs of Illinois families and businesses to pay for his bigger, bloated government. I'm here today to assure the people of Illinois and the businesses of this state that as governor, I will not raise taxes on families and businesses. Not only did Governor Quinn threaten families throughout the state of Illinois, but he sent a message that hurts the very capability we have at keeping jobs in Illinois and attracting businesses to this state. I don't know what state of mind Pat Quinn's in, but as I travel throughout the state of Illinois, I hear from families and businesses who want a governmental solution without borrowing, without taxing, and by reducing the state's deficit. The people of Illinois are sick and tired of politics as usual. They've had enough, and they want a clean break from a government that overspends, pushing jobs out of the state of Illinois, expenses on the backs of families, on the backs of our children and grandchildren. If I'm fortunate enough to be the next governor of this state, make no mistake, we will not raise taxes on families and businesses. We will attract jobs through private sector business creation in this state. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Senator, you've heard the numbers before. There's a $13 billion budget deficit, and people are saying we need to raise more revenue in order to backfill that shortfall. What's your solution to fixing that budget deficit?
Well, clearly we need to raise more revenue, but the way to do it through sustained revenue growth is by bringing the 700,000 jobs that the Quinn and Blagojevich government policies have cost the state of Illinois. In just the last 15 months, Governor Quinn's policies, his government, reigned over a loss of over 200,000 jobs in the state. Now, the average job not only brings a quality of life and wealth to a family, but it brings $4,200 in revenue on average to the state of Illinois. Revenues, real revenues that would sustain themselves, that will help us solve the budget crisis.
So how are you going to bring those jobs? What's your plan?
Well, I've called for a $2,100 job tax credit for every new job created, large or small. I've also called for reducing the regulatory costs on businesses. Texas has gained as many jobs as we have lost under Governors Blagojevich and Quinn. Why? Because Texas is a business-friendly state. They don't over-regulate. They don't hassle businesses. They don't over-litigate. We're going to reduce the cost of litigation in the state, from workers' compensation to medical malpractice. And we're also going to reduce the tax burden in the area of gas taxes, on sales tax on gas, and the estate tax penalty.
So
aren't you going to offset some of what you would make up if you do create these jobs by giving these tax breaks, by reducing regulatory costs on businesses?
What Quinn's failure to recognize is that the high tax rate on gasoline is actually costing us money because people are traveling to neighboring states to buy their gas, to buy their beverages, to buy their cigarettes and their bread. Reducing that tax will foster economic activity in Illinois that will outpace the loss in a very short order.
Do you think something has to be done soon, though? I mean,
something has to be done immediately. Something has to be done immediately. Governor Quinn, as indicated by Democratic Controller Hines, who pays the bills, said that this is the worst fiscal crisis he's ever seen or read about under Governor Quinn's lack of leadership. We owe over $4 billion. So we have to deliver on a budget that we can promise and deliver upon rather than making false promises.
Is this Quinn's fault? Did he not inherit this?
This is Quinn's fault. Governor Quinn promised to cut spending last year and left us with a huge deficit, in addition to borrowing on the backs of the pensions. This year, he's got a $5 billion deficit that he's failed to outline how he's going to eliminate that. His failures to balance the budget are sending a shocking message throughout this nation and, frankly, throughout this world. Our bond rating is worse than every other state in the nation. In fact, it's worse than most countries. I don't know if it's better than or worse than, but it's better than either Afghanistan or Iraq and worse than the other. This has to stop, and it will stop in January.
So Quinn said today that he thinks you're going to slash education funding and increase property taxes. Because of the tax break. So what's your reaction to him saying you're going to slash those things?
Well, Governor Quinn's failure to recognize that we have to live within our means. I'm going to provide a balanced budget, and I'm going to work with the legislature to reduce spending. Now, I've made it very clear. The numbers indicate that we have to cut at least a dime in every dollar. I think we start by focusing on waste, fraud, corruption, abuse, and mismanagement. Governor Quinn's put people into place that are political cronies or kept political hacks from the Blagojevich administration. Let's face it, he's failed to put professionals into running state government.
So what about education? What's your response to that? So definitively you don't plan on slashing any education?
Every area of state government is going to share in the sacrifices we need to make Illinois a balanced state.
So
But I'm not going to turn around and give pay raises on one hand when I call for shared sacrifice on the other.
So the answer is yes, that you would be willing to slash education if...
Not slash. Governor Quinn proposed a 17% reduction in classroom spending when he was at the podium at the State House. That's not a shared sacrifice. A Brady budget will fairly deal with all areas of state government.